Assalamu alaikum to all of you, wherever you are, our viewers, wherever you are. Once again, greetings to you. We are back again to discuss issues that are pertaining and happening in the Gambia today. These are the current issues that are happening here. And because, anytime there are things, and we cannot stop talking. One, we have to educate each other. Two, we have to hold each other accountable, the leads and the leaders. All of them has to be talking so that we can understand and move the small country forward for the benefit of everybody. And today, these current issues that we are going to discuss, there is no perfect candidate to discuss these things more than the guest that we have today, because this individual indefatigably has been writing issues about Gambia continuously. Sometimes you wonder, you ask yourself, how is he getting all this time to write? And instantaneously he will write stuffs, that comes, pertaining the Gambia and the wider African region. So this is fantastic, and it's going to be interesting today. And we have to celebrate our people who keep talking, who keep educating and impartially discussing things, from wherever they see it, based on their understanding and their experience. This is no other person than Brother Sulayman Jeng, who is a veteran, host and veteran guest of Gunjur Online. Brother, welcome. We are pleased that, you are back to your platform, once again, and to keep the bonding again. Thank you and welcome to Dialogue with the Youth on Gunjur Online. Brother Sulayman Jeng, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Janneh. It's an honor to come back as a guest at Gunjur Online TV. Back in the days, I used to host a program called Sumagisgis. Myself and Asis Bojang used to run it on weekly basis, Saturdays. But I discontinued it when I started writing on Jengen's media called Good Morning President. So every morning, 2016 up to 2018, I used to write Good Morning President, sharing my views and opinions on the daily issues in the Gambia. My special greetings to the audience and viewers of Gunjur Online TV. I'd say thank you for having me today, and I hope I would live up to your expectations. We'll discuss things, and I will do my best to answer questions to the best of my ability. Thank you very much.
Your ability. Thank you so much, Brother Sulayman Jeng. You are a household name. Anybody who follows Gambian issues online will really appreciate, the effort, the time you give to issues Gambia. That tells us that you are a very concerned citizen of that country, and what you want to see, like many people, is to see the Gambia developed, and you give him policy direction, you quote him books here and there in order to facilitate learning. So welcome once again, and I think we will create another just in Gunjur Online, so that you can come back again, and not this time as a guest, but to continue your programs. Writing is effective, but sometimes our people, what they are, the relationship between Gambians and writing. But thank God these things is increasing, things are changing. Brother Sulayman, once again, I'm saying on behalf of Gunjur Online, we are very, very honored to have you. Such caliber of Gambians, putting things down and discussing and suggesting policies, and guidance to our governments, our leaderships. So that's really, really appreciative, and you catch my eye, because anytime you post, I read your writings, and whatever we are going to discuss is going to base one way or the other has some relation to what you are writing online. So, and we will start with what happened in the Gambia. I think one of your posts, I think you are writing about, you wrote about indicators of a failed governance and irresponsible leadership. And some of these indicators, or one of these indicators you mentioned, is responding aggressively when the status or that leadership is challenged. So now we saw just recently, about a few days ago, we saw a group of talented kids, Gambians, that use poetry, comedy, drama to do civil education. They were called and taken to SIS by different Gambian institutions. We learned that Ministry of Education and higher education, I think, or whatever, they are all there with the SIA to question them and imposing bail condition. That I think is excessive and unjust, and for that reason, and they claim that they've been supported. Somebody is behind them, a political party behind them. I don't know which one. People are insinuating they said UDP. But in your opinion, is the Gambia increasingly sliding into a failed governance and dictatorship? And why the fear for anything that the government think is not is not supporting them, or is not in line with pressing in them and all those things? Go ahead, brother.
Thank you very much. I think that is quite a very pertinent question, and it's very relevant. Like I said, in a state, you can see some of the signs that would indicate the governance is bad, is irresponsive, and is heading towards failure. And some of this is, like I said, is government being intolerant to criticisms, because any leader, any human being who is proactive, any human being that is resilient, any human being that is conscious and is liberated mentally, you wouldn't be scared of people having a second opinion or a different opinion from yours, because that would help you. It would come as a measure for you to gauge whether you have registered some successes, or it would also give you a wake-up call to kind of reevaluate and revisit, some of your activities, some of the things you've been saying and doing. And then you would look back and then say, okay, hold on a second. I was on the right track, but this person has just pointed out X, Y, Z. I think it makes sense. Or even if it doesn't make sense, you try to look at it like Obama said. When people say things, they make observations. Government needs to look at this, or leaders need to look at this and get the best out of it. And what they think is not workable, they can discard it. Coming back to this young kids' poetry, I think they didn't say anything that is not happening in the Gambia at the moment. Because when they talk about cost of living, we all know, the cost of living, the daily cost of prices increases on a daily basis unchecked. For instance, you can go to, let's say, Basse, for instance, you can come to my compound, there's a shop there, and you can buy a tin of milk for $10. You go to the next shop, that person would sell it for $12. You go to another shop, they would sell it for 15. So there is no fixed price for one commodity in the Gambia. So, and it varies from one shop to another. And these things, the prices are not going down, they're going up every day. Like I also watch, I think Zipback also was talking about the price of jabo onions.
Yeah.
Saying it's $10. And I saw Imam Fati also mention it in one of his khutbahs. So these are things that are realities of the day of the Gambian life. So if these kids pick this thing up, the government should have been really concerned. Instead of questioning these people, they begin to look at things. Okay, everybody is talking about prices going up. Should we look into reintroducing price control? Or should we try to mix free and control market and see where it is viable that could help us? Should we subsidize some of these prices so that they can be affordable, and then we can peg them at a certain price? But taking those kids to school, you are intimidating them at this age. So what is going to happen? You are trying to kind of squeeze or ooze out their potentials, their talents, because they will be fearful. Imagine a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old taken to SIS, and then you are there for hours, you subjected to questioning, and some of these things, might be very intimidating. So you come back home and your parents get frustrated. Oh, my child has been called. And then they will say, okay, you don't have to participate. You cannot do this again. You have to come out of this society or organization. So that means they are curtailing their potentials. And these are people that we look in, look up to as who will be our leaders tomorrow. So if you suppress their talents now, you don't expect those people to be smart, to be free, to be independent, to be able to speak out their minds when they grew up. We want a society wherein people can have confidence. If you look at the children in Europe, you contrast them to those children in the Gambia of the same age, you can see a 6-year-old European or American child talking like an adult, maybe 12, 20-year-old, because they encourage to be confident. They encourage to speak out their minds. But in the Gambia, we suppress talent. And that's not good, because if the government is not guilty, why would they be so disturbed? Why would they be so disturbed by that poetry? That means what the kids have said has hit them home hard. That's why they don't want this thing to go out. And the only way they can say is like, these people have been sponsored by an opposition or by, unorganized criminals. But if the opposition are sponsoring them, that means the opposition is more interested in the development of the country than the government itself. Because that means the opposition is concerned about what is happening. The opposition is concerned about developing the youth of our country. The opposition is, interested, in our future. So that means the opposition is more concerned about the welfare and the development of the country and its people than the government itself. If that was in the case, why would they think it's the opposition that is sponsoring the students?
Exactly, and the contradiction is high, because the opposition is almost saying the same thing on a daily basis. If you see, specifically Mama Kande's party and UDP are talking about many issues that are happening in the country. So, and what poetry, drama, and comedians can talk about burning issues, can talk about seeing things that are happening in the country. As you said, the government, why they are so fearful of divergent opinion, or for kids or anybody to group themselves and be free and discuss things. I think one of the kids mentioned about their mothers being taken off the markets and all those things. Those are all facts. I don't think there's anything that is so secretive there. But that's the problem. I don't know why fearful our governments are about this. So, but the worrying another thing is, Mr. Jeng, I'm not sure whether anything that happens when the three policemen and a woman were shot, the same thing came. It was the oppositions one way or the other. So this pendulum of all the time, anything bad that happened is linked to the oppositions.
I think that's another major sign of failed leadership.
All right.
Because
Okay.
when leaders fail, they always look out for a scapegoat. They always look out for someone to blame their failure. For instance, is like when dry bones are mentioned, they always feel at ease. They feel on ease.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's
Yeah.
like in a group when there is a gathering, everybody is seated and you start shouting "thief, thief," and I run out of the crowd. That means I am guilty.
Yes.
You've not said I'm a thief. You just shouted "thief, thief." Why should I run out? So that is the analogy here, because whenever there is an issue, the first thing that government thinks of, the leadership thinks of, is who should we blame for
Mm.
this?
Yeah.
We need to divert people's opinion by blaming a group of the society, so that the focus will be on those people instead of looking at the root causes. In every circumstance, there are signs before you get the symptoms. The signs are those initial stages that gives you warning of something happening. And when it happens, then you begin to see the symptoms. And these symptoms are some of the actions that happen. When, for instance, in a country, before it gets out of hand, people would start talking. They will talk in the street corners,
Mhm.
they will talk in the markets, they will talk in the gatherings, weddings, naming ceremonies. And those are the signs that something pressing is happening. And when nothing happens, then you see people, reacting, in different pockets, or in individually or in groups. Let's say, for instance, that Mr. Njai that went to Minister Drame's home because
Oh yeah,
someone
yeah, yeah.
vandalizes his car. He went and he, outburst. He reacted in a way. He kind of demonstrated his frustrations. So that is a symptom of a dissatisfied community. It's not only him, he's just one individual that is representing many Gambians in his own shoes. So that is a symptom. So governments should pick these things up and say, okay, what can we do to address this circumstance? But when the science comes and nothing is done to address it, the symptoms begin to come up. What happened is the actual act. And then that is what you saw uh, in the recent days in Kenya, where people have to take to the streets and they come out in their large numbers. They're not afraid to be killed because they know they have a purpose and they have to come out to make sure their leaders listen and act.
Yeah.
And, Ruto, people have been talking about, the bill. It doesn't work well, it doesn't sit well with the citizens. So
Mhm.
why didn't you do the right thing and say, okay, let's, just this thing, instead of enforcing it on the people, all only for you to receive to say, okay, now, we're taking it off. So because he had given in, now they're saying, okay, we don't only want the bill to be, revoked, but we want you to go, we want you to resign. And
Mhm.
that's the next step.
Mhm.
So these are,
Yeah, you mentioned Kenya. We are going to come to Kenya and link it to the conditions that are happening in Gambia. I
yeah.
say let's take a look at what is happening
So
in
what I
Kenya.
wanted to
Go ahead, go
link
ahead,
that was
go ahead. Yes,
what I wanted to link that was the operation clear the roads.
yes.
So people are getting frustrated with that operation, even though is a good move, but they've taken the wrong approach in doing it, because development cannot come without making certain sacrifices. So, but those sacrifices need to be placed on the right, program and planning. For instance, you run, let's say, 3 months program, radio, TV program, and even, meeting the community at different times, discussing this thing, showing them the essence of clearing the roads. When you clear the roads, this is what we intend to do. And once this is done, this is what it will bring to change your life, to give you access to economic opportunities, to give you access to education opportunities, to give you access to, health opportunities. But you don't do that. You just come and find old women and men sitting, where their livelihood depends, and you just take that and chuck it away. It's like taking someone being, put on a life support, and you just come and want to remove that. So that means you're killing that person. So we've seen it in Brikama. These people were so frustrated, they wanted to confront the police. And the police administration knew they were not going to squelch these people by the mere firing of tear gas or even live bullets. These people were prepared to sacrifice their lives. What they did, they had to come in and dialogue and come to common terms, even though it is incomplete, but at least that is a good measure.
Mhm,
It
mhm.
is showing positive leadership. This is what they should have done at the beginning: meet these people and talk. And I said, when I look at it, I said, why is the government investing so much energy in clear the roads, investing so much personnel? And when you look at our streets, our youngsters, our youths are dying. Our youths are being wasted in drugs and substance abuse. So why can't they transfer that energy, resources, and personnel into cleaning, our streets, freeing our streets from drugs? Because that is what they should do. Because if all our youths get wasted now, in the next generation, we would not have any. elders, because then you would have people, in their 70s, in their 80s, asked to extend their work, because the generation that should have taken over from them has been wasted in drugs, or they've died, or they're undereducated, they're not prepared to come and take up that leadership. So the government is not investing in our youths.
Yeah.
So I think that energy they are using to clear the roads, they should use that same energy, redirect it into cleaning, our street from drugs.
Thank you, Mr. Jeng, for that, succinct and important analysis. Viewers, wherever you are, our guest today is Sulayman Jeng, one of the commentators on social media on Gambian issues, writing a lot of issues. Once he has been on host of Sumajis Jis Kunjuro Live before the Jis that came, that was in the Gambia came, he had Sumajis. Somebody has, plagiarized you anyway, Mr. Jeng, anyway, in the Gambia.
I think they've been on.
It was also much just before that anyway. But let's keep going. And greetings to my sisters, my wife Mariama Duara and Mariama C, and all the viewers that are listening to this important program. These are giants of the Gambia who has all what we are doing that they do. They work, they have families, but consistently they are talking, they are writing about issues Gambian, even though they could have been in their corners and keep quiet and enjoy, sunshine in England at the moment, So, brother Mr. Jeng, let's take a look at what's happening in Kenya. President Ruto probably will learn that leadership is not it's not always the use of force, and power definitely belongs to the people and not the leaders, unless the people don't know how powerful they are, and as you said, the tax hike that is happening there, similar things happen in the Gambia, and people are being squeezed. People are talking, they are complaining, the women's at the market, wherever you go, people are pleading, because of the inflation, the difficulties of their living, the no employment, and I hope the government will listen to this and not mask this and think that, they were playing politics and tell us nothing happened, Gambia is this thing and this thing. But people are feeling the pinch, even though President Barrow says the economic indicator is Gambia is growing, but the people on the ground, this is not filtering down to them, and the masses, the majority of them. What lessons should the leadership of the Gambia learn from the Kenyan situation? What lesson, if there's any?
The first thing that they should learn is leadership is proactive. Leaders must act. They should not be reactionary leaders, wherein you wait for things to happen before you do something else. You react to it. You kind of foresee things, you plan ahead, and then you design these things by looking at the current circumstances and the cries and the pleas of the people. Because, like I said, these things don't just start overnight.
No.
They start from a long way, and you can see all the signs happening. And once you see the signs, you ignore them, the symptoms comes. And if you don't do anything to prevent it, then the actual disaster happens. So leadership should be proactive. It should be resilient. And leaders must listen to the people. They must listen to the people. Leaders need to have a thick skin. They should kind of resist criticism. You don't take anything personal that people say, you personalize it. For Barrow, 20 years ago, nobody talk about him.
No, we don't know him.
Nobody would talk about Barrow or his family. But if you see people are talking about him now, he is the president. And we're not talking about him as a person. We're talking about him as the president of the Gambia. And anything that we pick up relates to his leadership, not his passing. You understand? And that is the difference that people need to understand. And our problem in the Gambia is like most of the time we are little too tolerant. We are a little too tolerant. We take things, for granted. As long as it does not affect us directly, we do not react to it. So, I would say, because, Gunjur, the Chinese are their fishing is only affecting Gunjur, its environment, the smell and everything. So I am from Basel, I don't give a toss. But if actually what is happening is the environmental pollution that is happening in Gunjur would affect someone all the way in Koina.
Mhm.
Because if that kind of sinks into our water table, is going to affect the water table in Koina, because it's the same country, it's the same geography, we're in the same latitude. So this would affect us directly and indirectly, but we are not seeing the direct effect that it may have on the people of Koina. So they wouldn't care. So they'll say we leave that problem for the Gunjur people to solve. It's not a problem.
Mm.
When something happened in the Gambia, they will say, okay, it's the government, so they don't care about how, when, even if the opposition are saying the truth and they know what the opposition is saying makes sense. But because it's coming from the opposition, nobody gives it any value, because they will say, oh, these are hustlers, or these are from the opposition, they are haters, they are this, they are that. But they are people who are looking for the same job as the president. They want the same thing that he wants, and they have the same objective as him to develop the Gambia. So obviously, if they see anything wrong, it is in their right to come out and speak and educate the people. But all we can do most often is like we look at Senegal and say, oh, Jamai and, Sonko, we look at Kenya and say, oh, their people are this, they're that. But these are the citizens, because they know we Gambians will not go to Kenya and fight their battle for them. The Senegalese will not come to Gambia and fight our battle for us and change our government for us.
No.
It's us who have to do that. So in doing so, we need to take up our responsibilities as citizens and say, look, we want this thing to happen and we have to hold our leaders accountable. We don't hate Barrow. No,
No.
we don't hate
No.
him.
No.
I
No.
am 100% Barrow. I support him and I want him to win. I want him to succeed. I want him to be the best ex-president of the Gambia. But I cannot do that by just praising him all the time.
Yeah.
I have to look at his policies and his programs honestly and tell him this is okay, this is not okay. This, in my opinion, this is not okay. And if I feel he is not doing the right thing and he's not making any progressive changes, I would encourage people not to vote for him. Because if they do, is like that is going to happen. But if the progressive changes are there, you see all the indicators to say, okay, let's give him another chance. But it's not coming. But again, this is us as the people that need to bring that change, because Barrow and his circles will do everything they within their means to ensure they stay in power. Because the other reason why most African leaders hold on to power, because they feel if they are out of power, they get into trouble.
Mhm. Mhm.
They get into trouble because they know what they've been doing while they were in power contravenes, their
Yeah,
task.
I think you wrote something like that. That stay in power and get out, get away from
Stay out
prison.
of prison, yeah.
You wrote about something
Yeah,
like that.
stay in power to
Yeah,
stay out of prison.
to stay in power. So most of them, because they know they spectacularly fail to the extent
Exactly.
now they cannot go
Because
back out of on power and do anything. If that means dividing the country, burning the country into pieces,
yeah,
they
just to
don't
stay
mind.
in power or get somebody to
Yeah,
replace you so that that person would not look
they can
into your
protect you.
past
Yeah,
deeds. You get protected. So that's why it's happening. But if you are doing the right thing, like Thomas Sankara, for instance,
yeah.
he knew he had nothing to hide. And when he was informed by his intelligence unit that, look, Blaze is plotting against you and he's coming to kill you, he said, if it is Blaze, let him come and kill me. Because he knew this was his colleague, this was like a brother he trusted. So if it is Blaze that is planning to kill him, let him come. And when he came, and then he said to the people, the ministers, he was in a meeting, he said, look, don't worry, these people are not after you, they are after me. They've come for me, not you.
Mhm.
He wasn't scared. But if it is others now, when they come, they will run under the bed.
and,
Because
and, and leave everybody there.
yeah, they
Sister
will run
Maria
under the
Masi
bed. And
says,
if you are not
African is no longer a continent that will accept dictatorship. Says Finney, she said we should start defining a leader, who is a leader. Occupying the presidency doesn't make you a leader,
no.
and so. But you wrote many things concerning about leadership but brother Mr. Jeng, you claim that the Gambia has been pegged on a poverty square by its leadership over 3 decades. How do you come to this conclusion? What are some of the things the country's leadership did or are doing to in prison to keep Gambia in that poverty square that you claim? Because we I think we are still there.
Well,
So yes, you talk about that.
I said we've been
Yes,
pegged on this
yes, we've been
poverty
pegged on the
square.
poverty square by
So
our leaders.
one is a way of concentrating power just to, a small group of people. Let's say, for instance, when Barrow came into power, we all know Barrow didn't have $250 million that he said he has in his account. Nobody said that. He made that a public claim that he had $250 million in his account. And now we have seen Barrow build, a mansion in Mankamankunda. And we have also seen him building his retirement home in Bakau. So where is Barrow getting all that money from? If you look at Barrow's annual salary, 255, if you, I don't know, 1,000, if you multiply that, by 7 years, that will never equate 250 million. So what is happening when they are coming into leadership, they come from very humble backgrounds, and then you give them 2, 3, 5 years, they become multimillionaires. They get so rich. And if you look at the vast population of the people, they get poorer and poorer. So it's the system that they kind of organize. The system is only designed to enrich, those who have access to it. And if you look at it, it's only a group of people, and they are supported by our so-called elites, our educated few. So they will come and talk and start saying things. They would point us. For instance, people who were struggling with us fighting against Janneh, some of them had opportunity to work with Barrow. You don't hear them say anything that they were fighting Janneh for. And those are some of the things that Barrow is doing now, and they are accepting it. So if I didn't want something yesterday, why would I want that thing today?
Yeah.
So that means you were not genuine in the first place. So also, if you look at the people, Gambians accept things. So that is another factor that is keeping the Gambia in the poverty peg, because it's the people that would say, okay, we have to hold our leaders, accountable. We have to probe our leaders. We have to, make them accountable. But you would see when I come out and speak against Barrow, I speak about against corruption, it's the same poor people who are struggling to put 3 daily meals on their table, who would come out to defend the system. They will tell you there is no corruption here. They will tell you there is no problem. Barrow is developing the country. Barrow is building this road. Barrow is building clinics there. Barrow is building hospitals there. And these people, if you look at them, they struggle from hand to mouth. Their salaries cannot pay their rent, monthly rent. They struggle to have transportation to go to work. They struggle, to pay their bills. So they are borrowing from one person to another. They have series of, debts. And sometimes even before they are paid their salaries, they have already spent it. So these are the people you would see that would be defending the government. These are the people that would be defending the system. So this would help to keep the people poorer, and to help those few in the government to get richer.
Yeah, I think Mariama Juare said we should blame Gambian too, as you said. But Mr. Jeng, why is Gambian? So why are we so? Is it part of ignorance? Is it that we are seeing like these are my people, this is my tribe, this is my region, this is my brother, or ignorance, or because the handout? Because I know the government will bring people who they know they are not capable of anything else. They just bring them there and
So
elevate their life, easily from 0 to 100% or more. Those people will never go into. So what is the problem? What is the problem with us?
Some of the problems is not just one problem. Some of the problems
Go
could be community or family pressure. The other one would be patronage. The other one would be culture. The other, you could look at, a religious aspect. You could look at work ethic. You can look at public will. You can look at political will. Let's say, for instance,
Somebody say
community.
laziness also. Yes,
Hmm?
Maria Majuara. Yes, go ahead.
You can also, let's say, let's look at family or community pressure, for instance. You, let's say you are the Inspector General of Police. I commit a crime, and my brother knows your wife or is related to your mom or your sister, and then they would come to your wife. They will not come to you, but they come to your wife or they come to your sister and say, oh, speak to your husband or speak to your son, do this, Mr. Jeng is innocent, and then they would convince you to kind of make the case. You just throw it under the carpet and not prosecute me or get me free with drugs, etc. Or you may be, a managing director, and then we would have a program, a community program, and say, okay, we want you to donate us, money. And you don't have personally, you're not taking from your personal money, but you're taking money from your corporate company or from your institutions or your department, and you're giving it to the community. And by law, you are not allowed to take that money and sponsor that community program, or to sponsor a family program, or etc. But because the pressure, it comes from your family, and you don't want them to see you as a failure, or you don't want them to see you as someone who is disconnected to the family, or you don't want them to see you as somebody who is stingy, you kind of yield to the pressure, and then you do those things, they are legal. So these are things that is depriving that money you've taken unlawfully and then sponsor the community, and they seen that in a good will, but that money you are depriving it from people, majority of people who could have benefited from that. For instance, that money could have been used to be allocated to education. That money could have been used to be allocated to the Minister of Health. It could have been used to, to be allocated to information, wherein we could have internet facilities, stable internet supply, wherein we can have, proper medication, where we can have more trained personnel. But this one has been deprived. The money has been redirected to the wrong source. If you look at the community will as well, this is where I always say the community is not willing to commit itself to bring about the changes, because it is the community that can twist the arm of the leaders to make those programs wherein, they could expand and create, equal economic opportunity for people. Let's say, for instance, creating, an atmosphere wherein people can have loans, those who want to do small businesses, those who want to invest in petty trading, or you want to come to the Gambia and invest from the diaspora. At least they can create, circumstances wherein you don't have to bribe officials to register your business. You don't have to bribe officials, to run your business. You don't have to bribe officials to import your goods into the Gambia. But sometimes you find these things are very frustrating. You want to come to your country, you want to invest, and then you are suffocated. People steal from you, people kind of, just get you frustrated. And then you think, you know what, I'm not investing in this country. I'm going back. I'm staying in Europe because I'm confident. Why do I need to come back to Gambia and invest when people, everybody is stealing from you and everybody tells you lies? Even those that you think are very religious, they're very unjust, very
Oh yeah,
unrealistic.
yeah. I'm glad you call it how it is.
So
We lie and we
they,
steal. We are thieves and liars in that country across the board.
they look at you in the eyes, and then they'll be telling you lies, and they know. And what is more worrisome, they will be quoting God or the Quran
Yeah.
when they know themselves they're lying. They're telling you lies. So people are not ready to take up their civic rights and duties to bring about the change. Elections, when they come, they will say, okay, NPP would give them a bag of rice, or UDP will give them a bag of rice or 50 bags of cement, and they would vote on that basis. But you fail to realize that vote you have gives you 5 years voice.
Mhm.
And within that 5 years, whoever you gave that vote to is the person that will be managing your own affairs. and not only your affairs, but the affairs of your children. Because let's say, for instance, now, we have seen within a week, we lost about 3 youths
Mm.
from drugs.
Yeah.
So these people, and if you look at that rate, every week you are losing 3 youths within the year, is like that would kind of go a long way, and a lot of people would die within that time.
Mm.
So it's like it's just maddening.
Mhm.
So we come and defend these people. We don't come and tell them, look, what you've done is wrong, or what you're doing is not right, and etc.
Yeah. Yeah, once again, we have Brother Suleiman Jeng with us here to discuss issues pertaining the current issues of the Gambia, the current affairs. As we said, we talk about the government because the government is the overall boss that is managing our affairs, including our lives, our money, our resources, the resources that are generated on behalf of everybody. So, for that being the case, we are not being prejudiced here. What we are doing is to hold the leadership that are managing our resources, that have direct impact on our lives, accountable. And anybody who sits in that hot seat, you are going to be accountable. People are going to talk about anything that you do. This is not nothing personal. As Mr. Jeng had said, we've contributed a lot of money towards Barrow defeating President Yahya Jammeh. He don't know us, we don't know us. What we want is a better Gambia, a leader that will put the Gambia things first, than party politics or anything else. And so that Gambia can be richer for everybody else, despite that leader is there or not. That country will go for the benefit of everybody. Brother Suleiman, you said President Barrow once, since you mentioned that, once he boasted that he has about 250 million in his personal account. Anywhere else, that will be outrageous in any Western countries for a president to come and boast that, nationwide. But these are minors, the arts of mansions, his other properties that we didn't know, and the cars that he said people have gifted him to him, giving it to him, and many, many other things. He said, but different auditors report also on earth corruptions at different level of our life, our government, these 7 years of President Barrow's government. We talk about Yaya's corruption before, but he's not there now. How much is corruption, especially at the highest level of government, part of Gambia's political problem or Gambia's problems as a country?
I think corruption is really, really rampant in the Gambia now as we talk, because you would hear people would say, it's Barrow's time. If you don't make it now, you will never make it again. So these are very worrisome and disturbing statements
Yeah.
coming from public officials. You understand? And they are saying this thing because they know if they do it, Barrow is not going to react in any form or shape. Look at those people who were indicted at the Gambia Ports Authority. They were
Yeah.
suspended, they were investigated, and we've seen them being reinstated. And obviously, we know, malpractice and misappropriation of funds has happened. Those people, why should they be reinstated? They've not been taken to court. They just do these things in camera, and then they come back and give them back the job. So that means they're telling them, come back and carry on what you're doing. Under Jammeh's time, we all know Jammeh, it takes a lot of things. And I'm not saying people were not stealing from government at the time under him, but people were more mindful under Jammeh than under Barrow now.
Mm.
Even Ahmad Ba said it. He said, people are saying Barrow doesn't fire people.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But he used himself as an example. He said, out of the coalition members, he's the only one that is remaining.
Yeah.
But that does not make sense. If you look at the people that Barrow, parted way from the opposition, these are people that he could not control like he's doing with Ahmad Ba.
Yeah.
These are people who are not as bad as him. So he said, look, I need to get rid of these people. But he did not get rid of those people because they were underperforming. He did not get rid of those people because they were corrupt. So those people had principles. Those people, who were ready to contribute to work. But he got rid of them because he could not, manage them in a way that he does with Ahmad Ba. So corruption in the Gambia is everywhere. Even in Europe here, there are corruptions, but here you dare not even, you cannot even notice this is corruption if you are not very careful.
Yeah.
But in the Gambia, it is a way of life.
Mm.
People think the only successful Gambians are those who are notoriously corrupt.
Mm.
But if you are someone that, adhere to the letter of the law, they would say, oh, nyimudin criminality, or
Yes.
this person doesn't want anything.
Baraka, Abaman Futu, and all those things.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So that's
Mr. Jeng, that's where the problem seems to be. Are we as a people corrupt culturally, or our gift giving is part of what is misunderstood here? To the extent that if we are corrupt, everybody claps to you, from religious people, because somebody can come within 5 years, he's a civil servant, and from nowhere his salary is £700, or, sorry, $7,000 or whatever, and everybody's saying, Yekari Jele, do you see this individual? These are the people, these are the heavy lifted, these are people, or they will come out with all the stories your mom have suffered in the marriage, many things, that they will come
along
out with.
lack of awareness bijele.
Okay,
Lack
go
of
ahead.
awareness bijele. Greed bijele, and then cultural or public acceptance contribute,
Mm.
because lack of awareness is like, for instance, nimbaro nata, everybody thinks, because atelimu mansati naye doko dada base kolye, they would say is baro le dada, it comes from his pocket, but they don't know baro do sila doko nying amanna baro la pocket, amambo baro la pocket auto, it's not out of his pocket, is from Ite and Inte and any and every other Gambian can namul minijo. Mansakunda ka wolle use aka grants wol Minnesota. Mansakunda ka will use, and those grants and loans mbele ka jo. And we pay that through our tax. Ni tata bidikoto ye machi box of match sang, or
Yes.
ye poti sukuro sang, or ye potiko sang. You are paying tax on top of that, and government is using that to fund its projects. So amanke baro la kodo wole wosilo dada, amanke baro la project kodo wole lopitano borosan lopitano to. We are all, as Gambian taxpayers, we are funding that, but because itil in their words, itil ya miracle baro leka was sponsor, so all the credit goes to Baro. So ni Baro nata I $50 a deal, I $20 a deal, they think is his money. But sometimes that may be coming from taxpayers' monies. Ila on kodo akawoleta akadila. So you think he's a kind man, he's nice, he's this, he's that, but he's using your own money. It's like stealing from family. Itemo kilimbije altelmo lulu in the family. Everybody's working hard, ka business, family business in dada, mo kilimbije akawusunya akanyi. So you think it's someone else, but you hold in your own family. Public acceptance is like they think, oh, there's nothing wrong because
Yes.
it got any society damning.
Yes, pure nonsense.
That's false. That's wrong. You cannot, apply that analogy into public funding management. You cannot take that itela on personal use. Okay, that's wrong. That's stealing. That is wrong. Mobile nyanta wo condemn na. Bari baje la hani public wato street wall pompol bije mol kana kawol yele, they don't even, because it have mansakunda le tam. It's not mansakunda, it's still a tam. This is public property and you part of the public. So we need to understand that. And unyanta na mindset change on that so that we can realize these things are ours. But we have elected and appointed few individuals to manage it on our behalves. But this is ours. And then it can manage Nyaming. We have a right to investigate it. We have a right to talk about it. We have a right to say, hold on a minute. I don't appreciate the way you're managing my affairs. I want you to do this, X, Y, and Z. If you're not happy with it, go your way. Mansakunda until leke mansakundati. I always say this thing. Mandingolga for itasubu itamuru. I think that is too over generous.
It is, yes. And
It's
it
too
is.
over generous. In Africa, you don't tell a leader itamuru itasubu. No. Because neofai adiata edame abejele kuntula. because atele tamu muro atele tamu suboti bonia fo subo ntele tamu muro etele tamu na ko aba kundula ja isafa hani amurundi ko madomandi. So there is a compromise there.
I think I like that, you said that in Mandinka. Can you say that in Wolof also, that Subo and Muro analysis?
Yeah,
Definitely. Wow.
In Africa lima wasi sote moene amga ñun dañ de ne nguur bi ya mom yapa bi ya mom paka bi yapa bi paka bi yeb sa boss la waaye loolu soo ko joxee doomi adama dafa ne moom yëpp fi ko ne la mooy dog waaye su fekkee ne danga ko ne ok yow jëlal yapa bi man ma jël paka bi o yow jëlal paka bi man ma jël yapa bi su ñëwee pour dog di ngeen naa agree ne waaw dogal fii o déedéet bii dafa rey wàññil fii ndifit fi so da ngeen naa négocier te leadership loolu la so leen electé seen leaders ñooñu dafa mel ni nga am sa mbindaan ci kër yaa ko binda yaa koy fay weer so yaa ko war a santa mu def lii mu def lale mu def président bi tamit is di senior mbindaan dëkk bi ñun ñëpp ñoo ko employ ñun ñoo koy fay so su fekkee ne mu ngi liggéey te ñun liggéey bi nu mu ko liggéeyee dalut suñ xel dañ ko ne lu ñun ñoo la jël nga liggéeyal ñu lii ak lii nga war a def soo ko mënut a def ñu bàyyi la nga dem nga fay borom mu dem élection bi su ñëwee nga ne ko look we've allowed you 5 years and unfortunately you have not delivered to our expectations. Now we need to give somebody else a chance. Understand? In politics you can say whatever you like. I think that is also another misconception because lolu mu ngi firndel ne politician bi duy wax dëgg. Politician bi tapalekat la. Politics is business and politics is not that.
It's not that. It's not. No.
There is what you call political ethic. As a leader, whatever you promise, you must deliver. And you cannot finish doing everything. So there is more leadership is continuity. Nguur Jammeh ñëw na dem na nguuri Jawara mu ngi fa woon dem na nguuri Barrow moo fi nekk tey boobu tam dafa dem elect dafa ñëw but Gambia would remain and we would remain. So dañ war a understand ne ñun ñooy nguur bi te doole nguur bi si ñun la nekk. The power of the leadership rests in our hands. So we are the power. So waruñoo ragal nguur bi ñu war a ragal. The leaders should be afraid of the people. In Africa, it's the other way around, especially in the Gambia.
And that's down to us, Mr.
How ngane man ma mom policy, man ma mom army bi, man halis bi xam nga nguur gi, man ma ko amé, man li ma neex la say def. No, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. Even though you are the manager, you are supervising our affairs, managing our affairs, but you cannot just say yo lila ne ngay def. No. You do what the people want you to do. You manage their fundings as how they want it. For instance, you so ñëwee Basse ñooñu soxluñ marché nga ne dang leen a bilal marché. Obviously marché bi dafa nekk ay west. Su fekkee ne ñoom dañ need a garden. In your own view, or hell ne garden is not important. Why ñoom at the material time lolu is their most important need. So if you provide them that garden instead of the market, they would make the best out of the garden than the market.
Than the market, yes. So I mean, Mr. Jeng, that means prioritizing developments and be in contact with people that that development is going to have impact on because they know what they want. No matter whether you want political, gerrymandering, you want politically people to say you do this, you did this, but the local people want a well, they want a borehole for their garden. That is going to be more meaningful to them.
They don't want a mosque. So why are you building them a mosque? They want a borehole.
Yes, you don't need to build them a mosque. Mosques are all over the place. Once again, Gambians, our viewers, we are talking with one of our fine Gambians, that comment and write about policy developments and discourse about issues concerning Gambia and how Gambia can go forward. Not only he critiqued things from both sides, but he gave policy suggestions to leaders. Sometimes if leaders will listen to these and see people online, not as, their enemies, but, these are people that can contribute a lot to the country. one of the people here, in front of you is giving a lot of free policy advice to government, and whether they are taking it or not, is my guess, So, Mr. Jeng, let's take a look at the state of the national politics. You argue that the Gambian politics has not created space for open, tolerant, inclusive, and structural approaches of a national discourse. That's your word, to solving burning issues in our eco-political system. How much is this thanks to the politics of our leaders?
Well, it is unfortunate. That's the reality. In politics, there is what you call inclusion and tolerance. Let's say, for instance, if I come and say, oh, Dabo this, Dabo that, all the UDP people will be after me. Why am I critiquing Dabo? Even if what I say about him is true, they would say, it's not your business. Because I remember there was this time I said, Dabo need to make way for a new leadership. He should create, a succession program wherein someone can take up the leadership from him. I said, in the Gambia, most of the political parties, the founding leader of the party becomes the face and synonymous to the party. I looked at Jawara, for instance, PPP, when in 1992 he said he was going to step down, Ikafo Yiriba Boita Kunol Janjanda, everybody crying, big men and women.
And then I remember my grandparents were telling me Gambia without Jawara.
Exactly.
But we are still here, without Jawara.
Absolutely. So, but naturally, it's like PPP is dying with him.
Yes.
If you look at NCP, Kabring Sirif Dibatata, NCP virtually died.
Yes, it melted out. Yeah.
If you look at Asan Musa Kamarala partying for Didi Malonyadi, that one is gone with him. And it's the same trend which is happening. You look at Doi, is Halifa and Sidia.
Exactly.
You look at UDP, is Dabo. So when I mention this, Iko, this is not your business. You are not a member of the UDP. Why talk about UDP? Let UDP discuss their own problems. But again, this man has tried for over 5 times, I think. And he never succeeded. So Dabo is not a bad person. Dabo is, I wrote a lot about him. And personally, Nate, we shared a lot. And I am grateful to him. I'll always be grateful to Dabo. Because my experience with him is like Ate Abukanyina ala Kunumola.
Okay.
He doesn't Abukanyina ala Kulumola. And whenever something transpired between you and him, Akawo Bambandi Afele. And he's always grateful for simple things you do for him. And that's humanity.
Yes.
You don't see those things in Barrow. You don't see those things in others. But it's in Dabo. Why Gambians vote I don't know. But for me, if you try 3-4 times, Imam make, the only person that can take that party forward. UDP, I always say, is the party, Miyalonko, is blessed with people who are academics, people who are, experts, in various fields. And, if you go to the international arena, you find so many Gambians who are affiliated with UDP, and they're doing a lot to develop other countries and international organizations. So these are people that can develop the Gambia like they develop in other places. So probably if the leadership has changes and gave opportunity to some of these people, Gambian would say, let's give UDP a chance. And they can see what UDP can do for that country.
Yeah. Mr. Yen, since you mentioned UDP, this is going to be another question. But since you mentioned it, we can just complete that and move to the other one. In 2021, there were high hopes, that will be a UDP presidency, but that did not happen. Yet again, you postulated that UDP is set to win 2026 presidency election or 2026 presidency. What changed for UDP? What do you base this contention on?
Because
and
if you look at UDP,
what do you base your this argument, contention, your suggestion that they may?
If you look at 2021, if you look at 2021, a lot of Gambians said they voted against UDP, not because they don't want Dabo, like I said initially. They voted against UDP because they think the party, in quote, was a violent party. Some of them call UDP a tribal party.
Yes, the Bojang
And
is
that
one of
is not
Limbo by
that is
force.
not true. Yeah, that
Yes.
is not true. Womangetonyati. And UDP is not a violent party because near Jube in the Gambian political history, UDP is the party Mia Longo has suffered most from the
Anybody.
ruling party. Jamila Wato, Jame, I physically harass, I harass in all aspects. He tried even Kai Dabo, Kai Feng plan in Dabo's office so that he can lock the man up. But Rialo mo ni imumo kendolti, alaleke makwe. Dabo escaped most of those plans. Baro Nata, Baro, it's even though he's not physically harassing UDP, but he takes every opportunity he has to kind of make UDP, a gesture.
Yes.
He keeps, throwing mud and sand on UDP and Dabo. And until I believe in being along traditionally near for Nyimwila Famati, Ikawo Hormaya Bunya. If Hama Hanna Manke Ulu Fadi, but because you were Bunya Diala, you don't go in public ridiculing that person.
No.
Woka itandiko nying amankulu. Because mo kuluringo itela alpha kajafila banta. Publicly, you don't do that. So politically, I think he hasn't got much to talk in public apart from UDP. So now, if he focuses on his attention on his programs and policies, Nina UDP and in Dabo, people will begin to see a different Barrow. This is a leader agenda. And if Dabo ignores, I speak to few people, Dabo should not be responding to Barrow. Because Nayewoke, he would earn more sympathy from Gambians because Ibajelako, he is the victim here. But Nimbaro FM for Anatalo, he said something. It's like Molka Jeleko, he and Baro, they are 6 and 9. And in politics, you don't respond to your opponent in a way Mia Lonko, Molbal Jela in the same light. If you are responding to that person, you should respond in a way Molbal Jelako, this is the bigger person. This person is more mature than this one. You respond with policies. Let's say, for instance, governor la appointment or NPP call appoint as governors. UDP took that to court. Galia Jeko Ninko Nintada Malobina Baromutala. So they quickly reversed that. That is a bonus to UDP. And you can see UDP some of their executive members will invite anywhere they come. They are not afraid to meet the media. People like Larry, Dr. Cisenyol, Lamin Komanyol, and many others. They come out, they talk. Even if it is uncomfortable, they would come and sit and talk.
And talk to you.
So this is what you expect from a politician or someone aspiring to become a leader. Because if we give them the chance, Sama, they will be able to come out and defend and talk about policies and programs. And if you look at the UDP 5-point agenda, given a chance, that is what Gambia wants. And if you look at Komai, what he said in the last program with him, he did mention something which is quite essential. Counting problem mostly akana at the collations of the results. Because near Jube, sometimes it take a whole day or even 2 days before the whole results is declared.
Yeah.
Saying UDP, they've got a system, Mia Lonko, come 2026, they will be able to get all these results, and within 3 hours, they would know the final results, which is excellent. So if they are able to do that, maybe 2021 min happen for election was rigged and there. So what happened? If that didn't happen, then UDP stand a chance of winning. Because Mbenga Lonko, UDP is the only party that has a very loyal and committed members. Once you are UDP, you don't go any other color. Once you are yellow, you are yellow. It's like Angalel Kaminfo. Once you go black, you don't go back.
You don't go back.
So once you are yellow, you don't go back. So what is their credit?
Babala Commando went, but he wasn't indigenous.
No, it's not yellow. Babala Commando
he's not yellow.
He was green, he came yellow, now he's gone purple. Actually, he was green, purple, yellow,
he was
then
green
back to
before, yes.
Yeah. So woman ke yellow tea. But original UDP in coal, wol bukata. They don't
Yes.
go no matter what. They stick, and they sacrifice their everything. They can organize fundraisers here, they can organize things, and they do things. They don't look up to their leaders, support. They don't take money from their leaders, like NPP in Cole during the local government election. Ye Baronya Kuje. They went and gave him promises, me alonko. It's not true. Ye Kodi Jama pump into that. And most of those Kodol fund, they didn't even invest it in the campaign.
Yeah,
They went and spent those monies and in other sea. But that does not happen with UDP. They don't go to Dawa and say, give me money, we are going to campaign for this, or give me money, we're going to do that. They organize themselves and they raise funds. That is the commitment you can see. So, well, if you give them chance, I don't think they would steal from the public coffers.
Let's see. But on the other side, Mr. Jem, President Barrow is showcasing his infrastructural development because he said, and one of the EU members was talking to him and say, what is your aim and objective? He said, infrastructure. And he's showcasing this. I built this, I did classroom schools, as evident that he is the one to be voted as president in 2026. The OIC roads, he's just, saying these things all the time. And he has the incumbency behind him. Whether he will stand or not is yet to be clarified. But if President Barrow contested and win the 2026 election, what would that mean for the Gambia?
Well, Akata Nyaming, at this rate, if he continues and then he wins, that means Gambia would just come to a standstill at some point, because we are struggling at the moment. When it comes to economic, the Gambia is struggling. Nadebnying, if you look at Barrow Lawato and in Jammeh Lawato, Barrow is just 7 years, but it's like he has doubled the national debt amount of the country. So imagine if Barrow is there for 20 years or 10 years, that means Gambia hanina salary inte ojonola. They will come to a point government cannot pay salaries. Lopitano, he's building. If you are building roads, you are building hospitals and schools. There's nothing wrong with that. But Ayatarako, they are serving their purpose. If you build roads, molka boriwo silol kang ibeka accidental soto ikafa, rosola nafale. People are dying.
Human life is important.
Road safety TJ. Naya taranong industries bijele miyalonko aka town soul ni village soul connect. There are markets wherein it connects the people. You can go and sell your goods and services and come back home quick in a short space of time. Isa for her silul in nafa waratale. Or there are good hospitals. Miyalonko bor kendol bijele, Dr. Kendol bijele, larangol bije, kurangol bije, and everything. The next minute I can go to Bansang and I would have all the medical attention I need. That does not happen. Ni tata Furioto, you have to wait for ye crossing. Ni tata Lopitano to maybe Ibuka Dr. Roje, or maybe Hani Ilokita Dr. J, Borol TJ. They will write paper for you for time Borol some from the pharmacy. So Lopitano Nafale, Nimboro TJ. Because niya mo lopitano borolem, niya mo lopitano doctorol anin no solem. Nita daje kurangotije a whole hospital kurangotije standby generator buga function back. Imagine someone needs urgent operations kurangotije wo be kala no nyadi, that person is going to die. O yetara operational table okon doctoro be operate kan kurango ita kamach. How do you expect that person would survive the operation?
Those are really...
So we need to invest in this. Mol nyantaka will realize infrastructure damma ni baro for William development. That is showing how limited his understanding of development is. That is showing how limited his understanding of leadership is. That is showing how disconnected he is with the people and the rest of the world. Because sometimes they can fontena leaders will for ni funtita banda itata tamula ni saita su ibuka maluban. Because in the UK you see how the communities are structured. You have endless supply of water, electricity, internet auto itata dauda, even in the bush. Jang we village auto nitata ikonyimu village. Do you think that you are in Banjul?
Yeah, and the villages are the same as all the
Yeah.
amenities that you need in the village. They are in the capital, and vice
In
versa.
terms of housing, in terms of road, in
Yeah.
terms of electricity, water are bare. You
Or
think
you yourself, when you get sick, we saw high-profile Gambians who are sick, and they ferried or they take them to Dakar, they take them to places. When you want a good education for your kids, you take them from the Gambia and send them to Europe or other countries that are developed more, so that they can have a better education. Why can't you put that together? We can have best
because
universities there.
a system of create wonyale. The system is
Okay.
created in such a way that
Uh-huh.
they who have access to that system are the only people that benefit, and their immediate family. So the rest of us,
Yeah.
we are kept in poverty so that we can see them as lords instead of as servants.
Wow.
It minister of educationality. You got
Can
children.
you please say that in Wolof then before you switch to Mandinka? That those areas are very, very important for
Yeah,
people.
lima wax mooy is like li système bi mel loolu moo tax ñoom dañ dee bugga ñoom danta ñoo xam ne ñu néew lañ ñi am accès si nguur gi ñoom ñooy yelloo njëriñi nguur gi, and then the rest of the doomi citizens yi ñooñu dañ leen a gën a dellul gannaaw ci ñàkka ak wéradi, because da nga gis ne ñoomi neen, for instance yow nga nekk minister of education, instead of nga yóbbu sa doom bi si public school si yaa ngi ko yóbbu si private school, yaa ngi firndel ne yow sa ministry bi nekku di liggéey, because su fekkoon ne sa ministry baa ngi liggéey mu ngi joxe the same equal education as the private school, doo yóbbu sa doom bi into a private school nga bàyyi public school bi. So coming for drong system o lebe wo ñaa, because ibajela itelmu danda mimbe mansakunda kono ye system create in a way itel damale be benefit la, itel la hajor lebe jarala andung itel lebe fankamala, then the rest of the people wolbe tula fuariala kono isaje ni ajube itel before ye na mansakunda place olto ibe ifuare dingol lem bari inata 5-6 years ibe keta koditi balti ika bunjangol lo ika muto expensive lo itel menu vote 5 years ni la life jube amurunta koma bake dan itel la life ka advance, itel la life ka muru koma nga misalo mindi, for instance minister of education na tara atela ministry be doku kendola abe education system ying falinkang aba tamandila anyama atala dingo tala aya samba private school intel na dingol wolkata public school,
Yeah.
because na doko ke anyanta kela name a dingo nyanda tala la in a public school,
In the public
parola
school.
dingol titala in public school, they
No.
all go to private school. Muna atina wolkata private school because imang trust Imanjiko Soto in our public schools. So if they are the leaders, they do not have trust and hope in our educational system, how do they expect us to have hope in that system? So Ibafula Allah dingol somebody so that they can be undereducated. When they come, they would be clerks, they would be, security guard, etc. Itella dingol, they would send them to abroad and other places. Yeta ye karang, and when they come, they take over from their
They took
dads.
over from there, and the same system continues. Mr. And the things have changed so much because Jawara's time we were in the same high school with Jawara's
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah,
And
I
we used to
remember
play
Gambia High.
together.
I
Yeah,
thought, is it Mustafa? I was
exactly.
there on teaching practice. Yeah, he was in Form 3.
You
I was
see?
teaching history in at Gambia High. That was 1990, 1991.
You
I
see?
remember that.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes it's Ndedal is like, in as much as I would blame the leadership, I would blame the citizens as
The
well,
citizens equally, yes.
because leaders will until nye elect until nga palaso dila andun ni mota doko la inyanta jube la ay ka doko ke weda doko nyim beteata or not, misalo lem ni be bunglo la yadi masongo la obviously ni nata yeje abe bungo lo kam bungo be jenkeri iba fula ate because yalongo ni bungo banda ate kela bunkendoti
No.
bari ni masongo to drong ay bungo lo alafta la nyamen na pareta asike juso si sumaya asike juso te sumaya la so mansakunda fanambe wonyale ninga multa ye na mansakunda maranye manyane tule fambulu nyanda ke kisi kisi nyanda ke la doko jube fo ka doko ke anyama o amantra anyama because na constitution no bi jele woy is a cool beke general orders bi je financial institutional bi je menu be civil servant guide kan will be nyantal like for instance Baroko is like nimu year for more in the civil service be party jumato ako he's neutral wo mu oppositionality I think that was the biggest and the most erroneous statement I mean ever came from him because
Definitely.
civil servicing according to the general orders of the Gambia humu Gambia la lualti many civil service all mara the civil service should be neutral amanya na la political affiliations yitandila they should not be members of a political party. So you can vote, of course, for a political party so they sympathize I mean, but you cannot show your political support openly. But nka will je permanent secretary role ngeje ikata barola political campaign also.
Yeah, and campaign.
Minister, you can understand those are political
Yes,
appointees.
ministers, yes.
But in a permanent secretary tata UDP la program or ebe ubailale.
About Baila, yes.
But the same permanent secretaries can go to Barrow and nothing would happen to them. And we can see that happening in our diplomacy as well, in the foreign service. You see some, protocol officers, they will be talking about campaigning for Barrow. I can understand where something is mentioned about the government, you can come in as a government, official, you can defend that policy by giving, solutions or giving referencing, to sections of the constitution or that department bylaws I can understand that, but you don't try to come and defend the undefendable. We are seeing that happening, but if it is the opposition they recall you,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
that's not fair.
No, it is not fair. Once again, viewers, we have Mr. Sulayman Jeng. As you can see, it's a very educative engagement here. This is all credit to his writings. And if you can follow his page, he does write almost on a daily basis on issues, and how he get the time to do that, I don't know. But credits to him on behalf of Gambian. We are all proud of him. Mr. Jeng, once again, where we move to drugs. Drugs are littered in the street of the Gambia, and the death tolls is mounting or are mounting. Girls, boys, or female, anywhere else, coups and all kind of drugs are there. What are the implications of drugs and of course, back way, because the amount of people who die, the youths on back way is countless. Syndrome on our youths, and by extension on the country. And what explain our opinion, your opinion, the government's disturbing silence on the issue of drugs, freely available on our streets and killing our youths, and still the leadership is quiet. Mr. Jeng, what do you think? Why is this happening in the Gambia and nobody is talking about them?
Well, there could be a few factors which may be responsible. One, you can say the government or the leadership don't care about our youths. They've got no interest in their future. Two, you can say maybe they are dealing either directly or indirectly with these drug dealers or drug cartels to give them the environment and the protection to peddle their drugs in our streets. So, but if you look at the ripple effects of having drugs in any society, the most obvious one is the rise of crime. Imagine like crime would increase, like robbery,
Yeah.
Stabbing, murder, etc., etc. All those things would be in the increase. And two, it would also affect businesses.
Yeah.
Because when people feel insecure, especially their properties, they would close down their businesses and they would go to other places where they feel they are safe and they can invest, And three is like, you would lose a good chunk of your population, which is the youth. Because if they all become addicts, the government wouldn't have the resources, to rehabilitate them, to create rehabilitation center where they would go and then, they would get clean. And the other thing is like the education would drop because most of these people would drop out of school. They wouldn't be interested anymore. And then we would see a lot of demand on our health facilities and the mental health facilities because you would have more patients in the mental health sector, you'd have more patients in the hospital. And if you don't have the resources to manage these things, it would also affect the health system. Death rate would increase, and so many other things. So these are the effects of drugs.
This is it's sad what is happening. The youths are dying. We have zombies in our streets. Our youths turn to zombies overnight. You see them, gerating, in
Sorry,
the
I've got
street.
tired.
Exactly. No, no, you
Sorry.
go on with attire.
Yeah.
That's very, very nice. Anyway, so and all these things are happening, and still, you will think this will be a top priority because these are the youth that are going to marry the females that are hooked up into these schools and other drinks are going to be married and be mothers, and tomorrow.
Give
And not
children.
only that, they are going to be, the facilitators of the economy of that country. The works that are
Close the
supposed to
door,
be going
please.
to be teachers, they are going to be nurses. If they are all one way or the other being wasted by drugs, that has a huge implication on us as a country. Any government, this should be your number one priority. People will see clear strategy that government will come, the president will come, every day and talk about these issues. Medias will be empowered to educate people, but that is not all happening. And the youths are dying. Like back way, numberless of people died and they are dying. Drugs now also has infiltrated in our country. An example is the course, and we are seeing people who are rendered useless because of the taking of drugs. And then there's no facilities to clean them. There's no facilities in Tanka. The capacity is only 100 people, I think, if I am right, at most. So there's nothing there. The mental health issue is not properly understood in the country. So, Mr. Jeng, some people will say you focus on the negative a lot, Barrow this, but as you mentioned, this is not Barrow as a person. This is Barrow as the president of the Gambia. And the president of the Gambia, you are responsible for the management of the resources that me contribute, you contribute, X contribute, people who have nothing. They have only street corners in their homes and compound, or they put a plate on their head to go around. They are paying tax. Anytime you buy, you pay tax. All this money aggregated together. That's the top manager, the chief servant is Barrow to manage that. That's why we are there. If he's off, we are not going to talk about it. Anybody who comes, we are going to talk about the positive and negative. So people do say, you talk about negative all the time. What are the positives that you see is happening in the Gambia today? What positives are there that we can?
I think the to be quite honest with Barrow is like I do when he does things, I come out and say, for instance, when he appointed Demba Cisse as the new
Oh yes,
managing director of the drug squad, I said this is one of the best, appointment he has made. And Dr. Cisse also, I
yeah.
think his appointment was quite fitting. And I did say, excuse me, I wrote some time ago, I said, Barrow should appoint, excuse me, Momodu Sabali as the Secretary General and Esa Bokarsi as the Minister of Defense, or maybe Minister of Foreign Affairs, because these are people who are, quite educated. These are people who have experience. Let's say, for instance, Sabali was a Secretary General, and when he was a Secretary General, Sabali has helped a lot of Gambian youths get, develop personally. They develop themselves, and then they now serving the government in various capacities and other areas in the private sector and even in the international level. And he was able to advise Jammeh. There are certain things that you just don't come out in the public But I know Sabali has a good connection with the youths, and he would make a good secretary general. And we can see Dr. Cisse, because I've always been saying, the government, their main problem is they don't come out and give information freely. Because when you don't give information, people, you are making them to resort into rumor mongering, assuming things, insinuating things. But Dr. Cisse is now coming out and he's talking. He's not afraid to go to media houses. He would come and set light here and there, and then he would inform people about what government is doing. This is what Barrow needs, because there are so many things that his government is achieving, but people don't know about these things. They're not aware of it because they're not sharing it with the public. So once they start talking about this, if you look at Babukar Bahum is doing a lot of PR for Barrow, even though he's just focusing on the infrastructure. But Babukar is doing so much PR for him that his ministers are not. Babukar Bahum will go, he would take pictures of bridges, of roads, of hospitals, and then he would share it on his page. And his followers and other people will look at these things and see, oh, this is happening here, this is happening there. So they are aware of this thing. So once his government start, every ministry, I spoke to a couple of ministers. I said, when you travel outside, when you come back, Gambians don't know where you went and why you went. They're only thinking because you're going out for the padiums. So when you come back, organize a press conference. Say, for instance, I went to UK, I've met the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I've negotiated visa for Gambians here and there. So these are things that the people will know. Or the Inspector General of Police, if he goes, say, I went to Italy, or I went to Germany, I've met the Inspector General, we have agreed this and that, this is what they would be helping us. And our police officers will be going to Germany to get trained. They would help us with uniforms or, other things. So people will know the police is working on this. You understand? So Barrow, the other good thing about him is, like, I've noted, when we say things, he does not just react or immediately, but he is doing things. If you look at his address to the National Assembly yesterday, he made some things. For instance, looking at, separating, splitting the electricity from the water department so that he can make them two departments instead of under one department of NAWIC, wherein at least if that is done, and then there are terms of contract set with those people so that they know, he would say, okay, within 6 months, I want you to deliver X, Y, and Z. And they sign that contract. So after 6 months, they go back to reevaluate. These are key point indicators so that they know if they did not achieve that within 6 months, then they should be able to justify why they are unable to attain this thing. So that is a good thing, I think, that he has. I hope he does that. The other one also, he talks about, reintroducing a referendum for the draft constitution. So people have been talking about this thing. So once that comes into place, and Gambians, I'm sure, if the National Assembly passes that, Gambians would vote for it. And then we would have a 2-term limit. Then we don't have to worry about someone coming for 5 years or 20 years or 15 years. Then we would know, if you come for 2 terms, if your first time you didn't deliver, you may not have a second chance. But even if you don't, after your second term, you are gone. You cannot stay. So that is a good thing. And I've also seen when when the UDP went to court, he reshuffled, the governors. He appointed the deputy permanent secretaries. Is good. He is listening, even though forcefully. So this is what we expect from a leader. You don't have to wait for things to get worse or out of hand before you listen. When people talk, you listen, you act on that. This is how you win, people's hearts. And so far, I've not seen anywhere where Barrow has, killed someone, or he has ordered people to be taken to prison like Janneh would do on the national television, blah blah. So, and he gives them a lot of leeway. But another thing that I want him to start doing is to start, checking on his ministers, because when you appoint someone a minister, there's a need not only to have cabinet meeting, but go to the ministry and see how they're operating, what they're doing, and then take stock. So this way you can manage them, and they know, you are managing them. because he's their supervisor. So if you just trust, you appoint these people, you trust them and leave them on their own, they have a free will. They would either deliver or under deliver.
If
So
you are a personal advisor to Barrow, presidential advisor today, will you advise him to stand 2026?
no, I wouldn't. To be quite honest, I will not advise him to stand.
And why? And why? And why? Give us reason. Say what you
I
want
will
to
not
say. And
advise
give
him
me
to stand because in every leadership, there is what you call the honeymoon period. If you look at 2016, Barrow was so popular. Everybody was protecting him in the Gambia.
Yeah.
But now, if you talk to many Gambians in private, at least 5 out of 10 will tell you they're not happy with him. So they would give you reasons, Barrow is this, Barrow is that, he's not fighting corruption, he's not doing this. So they would tell you this. So that means his popularity is coming down. And if you look at the local government elections, with the presidential election, the results, the landslide that he won, one would have expected that would be reflected on the local government elections. But he lost 3 of the most important, municipalities in the country, which is Banjul, KMC, and West Coast. So we know Banjul and KMC, those were UDP strongholds, but West Coast was an NPP stronghold. But he lost that to UDP. So UDP maintained West Coast, maintained Banjul and KM. So these are very important municipalities. And even if you look at the presidential elections, the provinces doesn't make a president win.
No.
It's combo that, is the kingmaker. So if you win in combo, that means you are comfortable. You can win the provinces. But the provinces alone cannot make Barrow win 2026 election if he loses KM and West Coast. And people are judging. They are looking at what these mayors and chairmen are doing. And they attribute that to UDP.
Yeah.
Because Talib is doing a wonderful job in KMC, and they're associating that to UDP. Same as Rohim Malik Law. And if Yankuba is doing the same thing, people will begin to see, oh, look at UDP elected representatives. And they compare that to the NPP elected representatives. So how come the UDP are doing more work compared to those chairmen who are on the NPP tickets? So they would definitely say, then why not give UDP the chance? Because if they are able to produce this kind of caliber of leadership who delivers to the, and then make positive changes in the life of the people, they would rather give them a chance. So I'm not saying Barrow may not win 2026, but it's going to be a very hard battle for him. It's not going to be an easy ride.
It's
And
not going to be an easy
ride. If UDP maintains its pace now, because now you would hardly see them insult you like they used to do in the Facebook before. UDP, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's NPP guys that have taken over from UDP. When you ride, you see a host of NPP, they would come, they'll be insulting you, they'll be calling you names, they were saying this. That was something that was known of UDP, but UDP has graduated over that. So Gambians are also noting this thing. So why is NPP supporters now insulting people on the social media? Why are they attacking critics of Barrow on the social media? That means
probably things have fallen apart. Failures is coming. Expectation of what we want to achieve before as a country has been derailed one way or the other. Viewers, I told you, you are not going to be disappointed, with Mr. Jeng. And I'm afraid, we have to stop here, Mr. Jeng. But this is one of the best discussions that we have. In many of our discussions, we do have couples here, and for you to come and for the first time join dialogue on youth, so queue of intellectuals, who are willing people who are there to fight for the Gambia, not necessarily supporting any political party or any individual. I'm not saying supporting a political party is bad. that, but as an
I
individual.
am supporting NPP, so
Yeah,
I'm not
but
shy
yeah,
about
you are supporting.
NPP is my party,
You are
and Barrow is
supporting
my leader.
NPP too, because you are giving them a lot of feedback, good feedbacks that can help them. I don't think NPP will be too happy, but at the end of the day, we support the Gambia. That is what is so important here, because when Gambia moved, all of us are going to be happy. We cannot be at the fringes of high societies where our country is being rotten. We have over any of us, nearly 90% of who we are in that country, one way or the other. So for that country to fail is a general failure to all of us, wherever we are. We cannot be proud of who we are in anywhere until and unless we have that small Gambia developed. Anywhere now Chinese goes, people will respect Chinese, people will say Indians and all those things. Even though we sat with them at the same university, we help them to even write their coursework, but because their country is developed, because their leaders and all those things have managed the country very well, to the extent now they are moving, everybody think they are this good than the people whose countries are not developed. So this is why no matter how we argue, we need to stop spinning things, and we all need to divergent opinion, but at the end of the day, we want the Gambia to develop. Whoever comes to take the leadership and develop Gambia, bingo for us. But we should also fight for accountability, justice, and we have to ensconce also term limits, so that these leaders will know that after 10 years, they are going to go off the power, and they will stay in the Gambia. If not, they will have, as Yaya Jammeh say, my 5-star hotel. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Jeng. Thank you so much, our viewers all over the world. As I said, dialogue with the youth so is the place to come to discuss issues pertaining our country. Once again, manager and CEO is behind the scene, who is controlling our fantastic view that you are seeing here. And greetings to all of you. Anytime we have time free, we will come again and discuss things that are affecting us. Thank you once again, and greetings to all. Have a good night and enjoy your Friday night wherever you are.